print and social media aimed. Well, it ran faster for me. I went to the other one. It is untenable that you will seek justice in the very institutions and before the very judges whose reputation and integrity you've never tire of assaulting. This is what the Supreme Court has been, of course. It wrote in a statement, you shall have no audience before the court, either by yourself through an employee of your law firm or any other person holding brief for you or acting pursuant to your instructions. And this is what we're trying to decipher. He has been a member of the Judicial Service Commission before. He also sat on a panel who appointed most of the judges that we have in our judicial offices, as we're saying. And was it injudicious of him to also be spewing some of his accusatory and allegations, accusatory fingers and allegations that we've been seeing on social media so far over the years? And we want just to hear from you. Let me just drop in Kipruto Rapkirwa, and then we continue with Dr. Isaac Kalua Green as well. We hear his voice. But before you munch down your and get composed, let's hear Dr. Kalua. It happens.
But this is not a hustler.
It happens.
He woke up
on the right side.
Yes, on the bed.
All right, you can continue. So, you, I said,
Yeah.
before you get composed, he was munching down his mandazi.
So let me say this to the discussion that is going on. One, Dr. Ahmed Nasser, I think he's a senior counsel, is he?
Mm.
The kind of discussion that is going on is very healthy. That he has identified, he has woken up to say what people have never said, that the judges are pained by all this because they are very honorable and we need to hold them in high esteem, and that he has been banned, and he says that that is a crown now, that they have given him what he really wanted. Very good, from wherever any of these people is standing. What is the expectation of a senior counsel in my friend Ahmed Nasser?
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be a trainer. You're supposed to be of utmost respect in the society and in the legal fraternity. You are not supposed to have had any issues with the Law Society of Kenya, and therefore you are given a honorable position of a senior counsel. The thing is, out of all these things, what is the most important consideration that one needs to have at that level? What is the image that I am giving to the graduating law classes that we have in this country? What are they going to see in the very near future? Are we playing politics at a point that we need not to? We need to ask ourselves whether this is important. The president and his discussions, starting with the deputy president and what he said 2:15 on Thursday and all that. What is the image that is going to remain in the people that we have said that it is politics that governs a country and brings the country in a better way? Mm-hmm. What are we saying? Are we taking people away from politics in the way that they should be? The young people who are supposed to be the leaders? No wonder a lot of people are not looking at television and news and all this because they're finding no hope. Kenyans are suffering by the cost of living. They are looking for leaders who can give them hope. Every human being needs hope. There are words that I cannot say just because I have been nominated, I have been given the head of state commendation, I am a Moran of the Order of the Burning Spear, I'm a chief of the Order of the Burning Spear. Little titles that mean a lot to me because whatever I represent, my senior here is in a higher category, having been a minister. There are things that you cannot say just by the mere fact that you are a son of a pastor and the community holds you in a certain situation, that you are a husband of a pastor, that you are a wife of a pastor. There are things that we need to be very careful when we speak, so that you don't get home and say that hiyo ilikuwa tu ni siasa, usijali. We need to be very careful about this. The president's statements, of course. You know, there's a reason why the president must be of a certain age. Because a child can say something and say that I wasn't sure what I was saying. When the president says that there is something I know that you don't know, that I have been asked to keep money to ensure that I can pay judges to favor me, that's not a joke. It is a serious statement, and I'm sure it is well informed. Is there a way that it can be handled better? Yes, I think there is, so that we can move the country in a peaceful manner. This is my submission, and I believe that we can take things in a better way. There is something that we need to do. There is life after politics, and this nation will stand out of the leadership that we have. And we need to ask ourselves, just like I have seen my brother having the badge, I'm sorry that I don't have mine.
Yes.
Is anything you say, is it fair?
Is it true?
Is it true?
Is it fair?
And yes.
Yeah.
You don't agree with. Is it beneficial to
all concerned?
You see, like, and I'll take him on that, because it takes.
What has the badge got to do with that? What has the badge got to do with that?
Is it Rotary?
Is it Rotary?
That's Rotary.
Okay.
And you see, it takes even the slightest statements, like even my brother said, and there is nothing wrong with what he said. He said that out of everybody who is here, I have contributed most in this government.
I've supported them openly.
Well, that is openly.
Openly.
The openly means is a very open statement, because everyone is supporting. I write my articles on a weekly basis, just like you do, and we share the page. I'm very proud to do that.
He
just
did his thing.
Yeah, you're doing this thing. No, I'm talking about the values that we need to take, and I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying the way that we need to change
Focus.
our direction. Let us understand that there is much more than what we are bringing out. Let's keep politics aside. Let us focus on what we need to do.
Thank you.
Our country is suffering out of high cost of living. What are we doing? What am I contributing that is going to help us in the best way possible?
Okay, allow me to just give a chance also to Kibruto to defend his dissertation, since I've said anyway, my time found me in cheek. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Diban. And as I was coming here, I thought Dr. Martinolo is not here because I knew he was going to enjoy it. And immediately I got in, I saw him smiling, so I knew I'm in trouble. But nonetheless, this is a very useful discussion. Useful in the sense that you are still in the process of building institutions in Africa and also here in Kenya. And as we build institutions, we have to be careful on how those institutions can be built, nurtured, and directed for the betterment of our society. I want to liken what Ahmed Nasir has just been tweeting. For the time I was a member of parliament, you cannot go outside parliament and you start making broad statements on the details of what is going on in parliament, including anticipating a debate that has not been laid before the House, for you to make your contribution. And therefore, if he was aggrieved in any way, the procedures are there, and he knows better than I do what kind of procedures he needs to put in place for purposes of reining in good manners in the judiciary. But when he chose to go public, and he's been doing it for quite some time, it's not that he's doing it in the last few months, he's been doing it for quite some time. My suspicion is he has joined the anarchists. The anarchists in the sense that, you know, the mind of an anarchist works better where institutions are destroyed. And when you destroy institutions such as the judiciary, the legislature, which has been emasculated by this regime, starting with the buying off of UDM, destruction of Jubilee, and consistent onslaught that the president has had on Jubilee, is a clear demonstration that they want to destroy institutions. And if Ahmed Nasir has joined the anarchists, I think the bill that has been given is befitting, because you cannot cast aspersion in the institution of judiciary, and when you go there, as an officer with your clients and you lose the case, you will be justifying that I've lost the case because, after all, I have known this judiciary not to be fair and not to be uncorrupt. So my take is that what we need to do as a nation is to get back to good manners by re-institutionalizing the very institutions that we have and accepting that you cannot have it both ways. You either respect the institution that you will be appearing before. Like many of us, we are not officers of the court, except Dr. Martin Olong, but we are clients of the court. Any day I can go there when I'm aggrieved by an individual, or I can be taken there by somebody who is aggrieved by the behavior or whatever I will have done to. And if, even as ordinary citizen, as a layman, if I was to be saying there is a problem in the judiciary, there is a problem in the judiciary, without substantive evidence adduced through the process that is known, is a way of destroying the very institutions that we have as a country. And I believe in Kenya, we are at the crossroads today, because the president himself has led by destroying institutions, starting with parliament. Remember, we had majority of MPs at the beginning of time. We had majority of counties. We had majority of MCS. But all that has been turned, and now, according to the constitutional order that we are now a minority by virtue of the president decimating the capacity of the opposition in parliament. Yeah, that's my worry.
All right. So, what material utility then is the senior council, bar, when you have Fred Ojambo leading the senior council association, and we have Ahmed Nasir there? I had hoped that maybe they're in the same WhatsApp group. Before all this has been taken by the Supreme Court, there couldn't be a bit of restraining that will have been happening within that particular WhatsApp group, if at all some of his tweets were overplaying, or he was overplaying his hands with those tweets. What again is the role of the Law Society of Kenya when we have a licensed lawyer like him, or a senior counsel within the Law Society of Kenya, and all this have been happening until it goes a cropper and it is in the hands of the Supreme Court now barring him?
You see, Deval, we need to understand that Ahmed Nasir that we see is a character that has been around for a while. This is a guy who was one of the youngest university lecturers in the School of Law in the University of Nairobi. And in a manner that was not usual, became a dean by some
sleight of hand.
And didn't survive longer.
You read deeply into it.
Didn't survive longer as the dean left the academia and has been in practice. Has made money and has made a name in practice, no doubt about it. He's a senior counsel. Would he be seasoned and perhaps even having more experience below his belt like Fredo Jambo? Certainly not. Like Agre Orengo, the senior counsel, not. But is he voluble and is he loud and fairly disruptive? Yes. Would he take counsel from his peers? Perhaps not. Because, as you say, they do have there is a club. There is the senior councils group have an arrangement where they have leadership and also and a role of honors of kinds. And there are other people there. There's Kalonzo Musyoka is there. There is Martha Karua there. There are people of all shades of opinion. But the point is that once you are a senior counsel, it means just like when you are QC or KC, Queen's Counsel or the King's Counsel, you are a person with high honors. In your speech, in your temperament, in your in how you carry yourself around, you have to carry yourself with that flavor. When people see you, when the young people see you, when my students of law see you, they should actually be asking me to bring you to class so that they can meet with you, they can talk, you can talk to them, you can mentor them. That's the kind of expectations we're having. So that you even go to tweet, that you are even so insulting and you are so condescending to the bench, to the members of the profession. I mean, the same way he attacks the bar, the bench is the same way he attacks the bar, and the same way he attacks anybody that he doesn't like. Now, those are not good qualities for a senior counsel. This is a warning. This is a, as I've called it, a preemptive strike when you're looking at it from a military strategy. From the judiciary, they are saying, look guys, we're going to bite. And this is not strange. There are courts that you would not go to if you had a certain history and the judge would simply call you out. That judges call out advocates is not a new thing. That the Supreme Court can actually say, we are not going to grant you audience, is because they are saying that giving you audience amounts to endorsing your view of us, and that if we win a case here, for example, or if you get your way around a case here, it's likely to be perceived that you bribed us in order for us to give you that. So really, you shouldn't be appearing, since we have a view of us. Do leave us alone so that we are able to make a decision that others can balance out. So this decision from the Supreme Court is, yes, some people have criticized it because they think there's no due process. They think it violates his constitutional rights. They think it affects his right to livelihoods and so on, because as a lawyer, practice gives you money and so on. But there is also a message here. Now, if there is anything for us to talk about dialogue, perhaps inside the legal profession, this is one such opportunity that we should be asking senior counsels. What kind of examples should you be giving to the rest of the bar? As senior counsels and the bar, what kind of relationship should we be having with the bench? Yes, we do have points of disagreement, that's true. That's why this other hierarchy of courts is in place. I don't like a verdict in the magistrate's court, I go to the High Court. I may not like it, I go to the... Until the Supreme Court, and even after the Supreme Court, I may still not like it. But such is the law. Once the law says this is it, the rule of law requires that we all then abide or subject ourselves to the dictates of the law.
So in the academia circle, of course, we talk about you talk about intellectual humility. And he's been on record many a times appearing on podiums and, of course, in sittings where he calls other people intellectual dwarfs. They cannot really measure up. So from your own assessment and talking about, well, we're talking about a very unbecoming behavior from that particular bar in the name of him at the end of the day. So do you think will you assess him as an intellectual arrogant?
You see, we are all public intellectuals. That's why we are seated here. And I want to believe that Kenyans are watching TV, unlike my brother, Dr. Kalua, who was saying Kenyans are no longer watching. Otherwise, I would refuse to be here. So I believe Kenyans are watching.
Just to correct, I said a number of people that particularly, not Kenyans. I have a lot of respect for media and TV.
Okay, so that it does not degenerate into an interpersonal exchange. I will refrain from that kind of reference going forward. If I consider that someone is an intellectual dwarf, an intellectual Lilliputian, as Jonathan Swift of Gulliver's Travels would say, I should not tell that person that I think you are an intellectual dwarf. You are a Lilliputian. I think that the weight and gravity of my arguments should dwarf that person's arguments. And the court of public opinion, because we are public intellectuals, should be able to determine that there was superiority in the argument that was posited by so-and-so. There must be some latitude of respect that we bring to the agora of conversation. And all the three gentlemen who have spoken before me have made very valid and succinct arguments. I would probably only add one or two footnotes. If any crown should be granted to anybody, it should be a crown of honor, not a crown of infamy. The crown that Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi boasts of is actually a crown of infamy. And I've always wondered at a personal level why some persons who occupy very respectable positions in society, in their professions, consider that they should always be the first in social media with insolence, throwing expletives at people, questioning people's integrity, when they know that there exist platforms where if you feel that you are aggrieved, if you feel that you're unhappy, you process the matters of contention and contestation, so that in the full order of time, it is demonstrated that these people are corrupt and these people should be weeded out of that environment because they are polluting it, they are making it meaningless, they are making it unworkable. And so like Dr. Olo says, consider Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi appearing, or his firm, or his associates, or his assignees appearing before this court, which he has maligned as corrupt through and through, and getting a verdict that is favorable. What is the conclusion in the common man's mind? The conclusion is that they have been bribed, and therefore he should be separated from that entity, so that he does not get maligned. What I am not very sure of, however, that said and done, when they say, or any person who has been given instructions by you, I think that starts worrying me again, because there could be a completely different matter which has got nothing to do with these postings of Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, and which in my considered view are malicious. It could be something to do with some property somewhere or some other matter of personal law. Would he give instructions to someone to seek vindication for him before the courts? And would the courts want to listen to the matter or not? Because there could also be an extent to which the court would seem to be smashing a fly with a hammer. Having asked myself the questions that I have asked quietly about these very learned people who are always clowning on social media, I have drawn the conclusion that they are probably court jesters within that legal space, that they are doing some clownish things within that legal space, and I have personally ceased to take them seriously, because there must be some clowns everywhere, and the Supreme Court may wish to consider the role of clowns within its spaces. In Shakespearean theatre, we always had these groundlings who sat somewhere in that porch in front of, next to the stage, and they are allowed to clown and to do some unsavory things and to even insult the people on the stage, thinking that the cast is actually performing and living on the stage. So they may wish to consider that as they send this warning shot, that there's also room for clowns. They help us to correct ourselves.
Right. Let me come to you, Dr. Martin Elo, because even as we're winding up on that particular bit, because I will wonder, has he become also larger than life, that he cannot be called to restrain? Because, as I've mentioned, he's in these platforms, but no one has been talking to try and restrain him. I remember what Alston said, that weak people, of course, the revenge strong people forgive, intelligent people ignore. Yeah, and we've seen this part. It's been happening for long, even before the elections. We have all the streets where also someone's academic pedigree is being questioned. You know, this is a level of academic level that you've attained. You have no grounds and state to actually, you know, even be having a rejoinder or giving me a rejoinder on what I'm saying. So has he become larger than life? Do people fear him? Or are you just being intelligent and ignoring you as a person?
You see, it's all those things. To some people, it's larger than life. To himself, it's larger than life. But also, there was a point that Mheshimiwa Akiro was saying that he's also, I call it, he said anarchist, I call him a nihilist. And nihilism is, you know, you leave nothing standing, you know. So when you have if you have a disagreement with Ahmed Nasser, he's likely to go for everything.
Annihilate.
Or obliterate. Yeah, everything. So that is him, the person. You've seen how sometimes he describes even Raila. In very unsavory terms, you know. He has when he doesn't like you, he says it in a way that you know, he leaves nothing to chance. So basically, that's him. And what I'm saying is that he should know better, or he should have now matured, or he should be seasoned, having been in all these walks of life, having had the privilege of serving as even the attorney for the in the TNA Jubilee then, and the former president and so on. He has been in high profile cases. There are things we know, for example, even in the last petition, that we can't say on this forum. But even as of last petition, if he had represented, if he had appeared, that would have been an issue. So basically what we are saying is that he has burnt bridges, especially at the Supreme Court level, and that's why this kind of a decision can be taken. But earlier on, when Barack was speaking, he was taking issue about instruction and so on. And then let me just put it in a context. As a lawyer, there are many ways in which I can appear in court. I can appear in person, or I can ask you to hold my brief. So you are actually you're doing my case because I'm not available, but you're holding my brief. Or I can give instructions to another lawyer to act in a matter that I have an interest in. Perhaps I'm not receiving the fees, but I'm giving you instructions. I'll pay you for that, and then you'll do it. In other words, there are many ways in which I could still be appearing in that court, that the court is
in another guise.
So what the court is doing is that eliminating any of those. In other words, anything, however remote, to the point that now they don't know. For example, if I went there and, or if you went there and you are totally on your own, it could be my brief, but there's no link between me and you. So that is what the court is saying. I wanted just to put that in the context. As to whether that decision is fair or not, it will be something that we shall keep talking about. But as to whether his conduct and his
not talking about you now as an academic.
No, certainly.
Because this question will be proffered to you by your students.
From where I'm sitting,
yes.
The court is completely in order to fume at an advocate who should know better and who then brings its reputation to disrepute and who actually vilifies it and insults it. I mean,
so by barring him from appearing before its presence, is it a violation of the Constitution?
No.
It's not?
No. In terms of, that's why I say it's an administrative issue, it's a constitutional issue, but it's also a practice issue. As a lawyer, there is a basic etiquette that I'm supposed to have. There's a code of conduct that binds me and how I behave in court.
But your learned friend, they see it differently. They say this is unconstitutional. So why we be speaking from both sides of the mouth?
You see, no. The issue of constitution has to do with whether that actually affects his rights to a livelihood, affects his... And so that he can litigate. In other words, can there be a litigation around it? Yes.
Yeah, because in a way, if we try and probe deeper, and I'll come to Dr. Isaac Alua on this as well, if we probe deeper, yes, not making an appearance or any legal representative from your firm at the Supreme Court in a way, you're stifling also my livelihood, because it seems maybe my highest level of maybe judicial corridors will be what? The High Court.
The point is this, and that's why I say that,
yeah.
that maybe this is a good point for us to actually have a conversation, because both within the bench and the bar, that if I am not obeying the code of conduct, and if I'm being out of order in the court corridors, is there a sanction? The answer is yes. And do sanctions bite? Yes, they bite. And do they cost? Yes, they cost. So yeah, if you come here and say that this is costing me, precisely, that's why people are fined in court, that's why people are jailed, because something has to give in for your conduct.
For your conduct. Okay. So he will contest that this is stifling and also interfering with my livelihood. What happens to some of the costs of the cases that are live at the Supreme Court? Okay, I know that's a legal matter. Let's just hear from Dr. Kulua as we're winding up on this.
The Luo community in Kenya have a very interesting saying, which when translated means that you cannot blame the mongoose and fail to blame the chicken.
Say it in Luo.
And I'll say it.
I'm sure it's even in Kalenjin and Luya, so
but he's using the Luo reference, which is fine.
Yeah. And because why did the chicken cross the road for it to find the mongoose where it was on its way, yet it has been fenced in? I enjoy looking at things also on both sides. And maybe we are all seated here blaming Ahmed Nasir, not blaming him or looking at it in the way that we have presented and the honorable way that it should be. I also want to give it a benefit of doubt that there could be something, because it all started with the president quoting Ahmed Nasir. Yes. And he took it very seriously that he has been advised or mentioned something about him. And the president has been saying that there are things that have been going wrong in this country, and I really want to take the bull by its horn. The style is what is different and maybe contestable. That can you use a different way as opposed to this? There is a possibility that Ahmed Nasir, there is something that he knows that we don't, which is what is leading to his character and the way that he is operating. And maybe time will tell us what it is, because definitely there are many things that have been going wrong in this country, not in the judiciary, many other places. And the judiciary has the best people that you can never think about. Very honorable judges. I mean, people who have all what it takes in terms of doing the right things for the good of the common man, but it has also been abused. So the approach could be the issue. So all I would say is that let's wait and see. I would be very happy to see the end of this discussion. I believe that it needs to be handled in a way that we need to leave respect and honor in the leadership. I don't believe that the president is working to fail his own government. He definitely has a route that he wants to deal with. On the other side, the leader of opposition, I believe that there is an opportunity, a bigger opportunity, in working towards improving the livelihoods of Kenyans, in fighting for what will benefit the majority of Kenyans, in a way that the Kenyans themselves appreciate and move with him, as opposed to calling for no dialogue, no discussion, what I call engagement. There is a bigger opportunity in that. But when it is business as usual, in as far as politics is concerned, then he should be calling no engagement, no nothing, because this is an opportunity that your competitor has already presented for yourself, and therefore you need to jump on it. But let's look at the bigger picture. Our country needs leadership. People are paying. People can't pay school fees. People can't place food on their table. What are we doing in agriculture and things that people can see, enyewe huyu ameongea? And we need more of that every day. Kenyans need hope. Hopelessness will take us nowhere as a country. And it depends on the leaders that we have.
Okay, let's just bring this conversation to a close lastly, because we've heard your views, we've heard from Barack that this dialogue is uncalled for. As it is, everything is so clear in the Constitution, as stipulated in the Constitution. I want just to hear from you, Kiprosa Rapkiro, because we have Azimio.
A footnote. Huh?
You have a footnote on that. I'll give you a chance. We have Azimio calling, saying, you know, this is a booby trap, and you're just walking right into a booby trap. Judiciary, don't do it. And he's actually reiterated that even yesterday. Don't do it. Kalonzo Musyoka has spoken to it. Don't do it. He's a senior counsel as well. The question, even for many Kenyans who were watching and they were seeing that particular press conference, most of them, they felt a bit squeamish, and they had the heebie-jeebies that now she's the Chief Justice, she's calling for a dialogue. I don't know what would be your sentiment. Do you stand with where Azimio is, you as also a member of Azimio?
Well, in this conference or in this meeting, I'm not holding brief for Azimio, but it's important that we go for the basics. Usually, the last time I knew about how government operates among the three arms of it is that there is always continuous consultation about an issue emanating from judiciary, from parliament, or from the executive. And that consultation is an ongoing process that we do not need first to appeal to the court of public opinion. Then now we call for dialogue after we have already cast aspersion on that particular institution. The wisdom of telling Justice Kome not to go for dialogue is the fact that already the president has blamed the judiciary as corrupt. And for head of state, the way Dr. Kalua said, to make that particular statement is either he has enough information, and that information he has refused to use the due process to ensure that that information comes out the way the Ringera whatever was done, or he himself is interested in destruction of the very institution of judiciary. I say so with a lot of respect for the president, but I always get worried because I've known him for quite some time, perhaps better than some of the panelists know him, that he himself does not believe in the capacity of any other individual. He believes that he has the ultimate capacity to be able to give direction in everything, even in things that he has not gone to school to learn. And that worries me because I always know, and this team will say, because they could easily be my seniors when it comes to issues academia, that the more knowledge you have in terms of academic scaling of the ladder, the more humility you should possess, because you will realize that you have more body of knowledge that you are not exposed to. But the moment that you say you are here in terms of academic scaling of the ladder, and you are still making careless statements, like saying the judiciary is corrupt, without substantive evidence and with clear indication who is corrupt in that particular judiciary. And if those judges are known, why don't you organize a tribunal to make sure that we root them out and the rest of judiciary is not meant to be tainted? That said, perhaps I would have expected Dr. Martin Olo to assist us in saying if Ahmed Nasir is aggrieved and he needs to go to court by virtue of his rights being infringed by an individual like Dr. Barak Muluka, will the lawyer that he has requested to represent him be allowed to appear in court? And if that is if the answer is yes, then it worries me, because now we are infringing on his human rights, that you are saying he has no space in this process. Secondly, we would also want to know what is the way out of this quagmire, that he cannot appear in court, he cannot send a representative from his firm. How is there a way out of it, or are we just creating an obstacle just because we have failed to allow institutions to operate? Because, as I've repeatedly said, this is precipitation of anarchy. The moment you don't want to allow institutions to operate, you are telling us deal with every issue according to your whims. And that worries me as somebody who believes in the rule of law.
Barak, you had a footnote?
So that I put the context which he's asked me to put. It is the Supreme Court that is saying, senior counsel, you have no audience before us. The 7 judges. It does not apply to Court of Appeal. Okay. It does not apply below.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. For matters that are alive in the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
and his firm is handling, then it means there is a stalemate there.
There's a stalemate
so
there.
the farther he can go, it is just the High Court.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Court of
Your
Appeal.
footnote. And the Court of Appeal.
Yes, institutions. I think we are operating in an environment where, as a country, institutions that have taken us a very long time to put together are at risk of destruction. They are at risk of being derogated, and we need to just call ourselves back to order. I underscore my earlier statement that the dialogue we are talking about has already taken place. We took many years to try to appreciate how to process things in the judiciary, in the executive, in the legislature, and the 3 lanes are very clear. If everyone will stay in their lane and do what is expected of them, if they have evidence that Dr. Olo is this way and that way, they bring it to the correct institution, it will be processed. That said and done, there's a saying in my village, of Emmanuelia, that the night runners know each other. They see each other out there in the night. So when someone comes and says, this one is a night runner, they have seen each other when they are running out there in the night. They must know what they are talking about. And that's why they are not willing to engage with the evidence and present it there, because they are going to be told, yes, we also saw you there, you also ran. We were running with you.
Yeah, that's deep.
That
I leave it for you to decipher that.
And that's saying in the Luo, and I forgot to tell it. It says Iano Ogwang, Tiano Gwen.
Again?
You cannot blame Iano Ogwang, Tiano Gwen.
Gwen.
Yeah, we will check the authorities.
We will consult the lexicons, the lower lexicons.
I wanted to remind Dr. Green that night runners are very normal, innocent fellows. Those guys are engaged in sports. In their
They have run together. They have run together, and it is a pointer. Basically, I'm telling Dr. Kalu at that point that go easy on me, otherwise I'm going to disclose what you did or what we did. So we know what we did. All right, the other time. And I'm just reminding you that we did this. That's why we say we are opening the Pandora box. Who has bribed who in this country? So that is the question that is being posited there. And it could be that I want to meet Martin to tell him that ukiendelea namna hii, I'm going to disclose what we did. And Martin is saying, no, come, let us talk.
So it's an issue of the adulterous woman that was brought before Jesus, you remember?
Yes.
And they said, okay, everyone is actually carrying a rock. They want to pelt the woman with it. And Jesus says, if none of you is without sin, then be the first one to cast your stone. Right? So everyone should be now dropping their stones as far as corruption is concerned. Because all of us, somewhere, some fashion and form, have been embroiled in corruption, one way or the other.
Was it an adulterous woman or a woman of the other side?
Which other side?
It was found in the act.
Oh, she was adulterous or she was a prostitute?
She was...
but adultery and...
she was a twilight.
She was a socialite.
A socialite,
Yes.
She was a socialite, and she'd been caught in the act.
In an A and B.
Brought before the Lord to be stoned.
But what is playing out here is now the typical, those guys who went to Sunday school now are remembering what.
Please take opportunity to honest.
All right. So we try to keep them honest here. And of course, the question of honesty can be a lonely word sometimes when it comes to, of course, following what the government is saying. Going by what we have on the Business Daily today, Treasury now is admitting that the deal with Gulf Oil Farm is a big flop. Concerns over forex market distortions, December exit plan revealed. We saw the government starkly denying that everything is hunky-dory as far as this deal is concerned. And this was meant to actually buffer Kenya from the skyrocketing and the free falling of the shilling, as it were. But is it working? Everyone has been questioning. So finally, the truth is revealing itself that now it's a big flop. If we're talking about the deals that were made and what else is in the public domain, some of them we can't even really talk about this, on how people also are cashing in on this deal. That is a question that we need to put on the table as well. So have we been duped as far as the G2G is concerned? Because everyone has been asking, why is the barrel of oil going down? It's at $80 a barrel, yet the fuel prices in this country have not been going down. And anyone was saying, it has been pegged on this deal, this G2G deal. So finally it's here. Can we try and interrogate and see, has the government been very categorical with Kenyans and clear and honest, or has it been speaking from both sides of the mouth? We've seen the Treasury coming to the fore and telling us this deal is good for Kenyans. Now, it's a flop. I have lost my sequence. I think we begin with you because it's Barack.
Yeah, but this is a different one.
This is a different one, so we can bring anyone.
So
okay.
Whoever is the plunge.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, a lot of these things are predicated on the philosophy of government, the ethics of government, the reason people want to exercise power, the kind of state that we form. And Dr. Willie Mutunga, when he was Chief Justice, described ours as a bandit economy. In a bandit economy, we need to find out where the bandits are, because Dr. Mutunga was not talking about the bandits in Kapedo, in Kapenguria. He was talking about bandits at the center of the state. And we have believed that each time we elect a new government, we give ourselves the opportunity to reform the polity. And it's important for the government that is for the time being in power to demonstrate that it is a reformist institution. From independence to where we have had what is basically a prebendalist state. And prebendalism in social science is about the people in power being there to essentially dip into the kitty. That when you go to the work arena, you are looking also for the opportunities that are there for yourself, and those opportunities by far outweigh the reasons why the citizens place you there. There's need for probity. There's need for us to go beyond Treasury admitting that the deal with the Gulf oil farms is a flop. We must really get to the root of the matter. Establish what the drivers were. Establish the incentives that were seen, away from the incentives that are placed before the public. Because when we talk about corruption in our nation, it should never be a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Mm-hmm. So we need to interrogate this matter and any other matters within the executive. We need to interrogate the legislature. And certainly, yes, as we have said before, the judiciary following due process.
Yeah, Martin, I'm just following this particular story and what we had also the splash yesterday. I was just running by our viewers as well on Kenya and how also we are paying for penalties, I think 65 billion shillings because of not keeping up with the contractual agreement, right? Especially when it comes to affording fundings to complete projects. So we pay 65 billion shillings in penalties. Some of these negotiations that we've done, we don't see heads rolling as the people who went to negotiate on behalf of this country, and we are the taxpayers who end up paying for these monies at the end of the day. When we talk about this particular flop, it is us who's suffering, and we are the taxpayers who are paying heavily right now because of this particular deal. Some Kenyans went actually and negotiated on our behalf, and now here is the admission that they're failing. We're still paying heavily for our electricity because there's a failure of some farm that was actually contracted by a government. You know, you remember that Ketraco deal with the Spanish farm, that there was a electric kind of wind power plant that was meant to be transmitting electricity, and of course we have a good stock in our national grid, which is not really happening. And there were penalties also on that we still $52 million that actually we're still paying in that particular regard until today. Heads are not rolling, right? We'll find people from that particular organization, they'll move on with their lives to other dockets, okidori, as if nothing really happened. But you are the one who's paying heavily now for the cost of power at the end of the day. With such a deal that has gone, awry as it is right now, what should be the stand measures? And we as citizens should be actually putting the government to check that we need accountability on how we negotiated this deal. Because we can't just be reading the headlines and then we let it fly, and another one will come tomorrow, and life continues like this.
I think I want to use this opportunity to call out corruption in the executive. Forget about the diversionary tactics of telling us that there's corruption in the judiciary. Real corruption, real wastage, real pilferage is happening in the executive. The issue about the oil deal going afloat should be seen in terms of what has it costed us. What's the cost? There is the issue of the 17 billion, and this lady whose mother turned up to wonder whether she was the billionaire being talked about. An obvious case of somebody doing a bidding for people who are deeply wired in the state, not some passerbys. Forget about those who are passing by KEMSA and were called to do tenders. These are people who are sitting deep inside the executive. So that what we are seeing is a symptom of waste. And I wish that somebody was telling this government that people have no problem paying taxes. But what are you doing to stem waste, to stem pilferage, and to stem corruption? So that what Treasury is saying, and Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, an eminent professor of economics, should be actually, if we were a country where people are honorable, should be resigning for misleading us and now for the truth to have come out. Remember when the matter came up, he defended it. Now they can comfortably come around and say it is a flop. This is the very reason why Uganda has taken Kenya to court. The cost implication between the relationship, the relation between Uganda and Kenya have been brought about by such bad decisions, so that it affects our business and our trade with Uganda. Mm-hmm. So if you look at this whole chain, the cost to us has been huge. Now, go back to issues of Kenya, as you say it, Ketraco, as you say it. There is nothing that's happening in terms of heads rolling, because civil servants or the members of the executive are busy, engaging the country in a zero-sum game where we are losing rather than gaining. So back to where we are. IMF today, we are told, want to give us more money. They want us to be taxed more. No problem if we can explain that and also stem. One of the things that I keep saying is that if we ever going to get better, and the president tells us that it's only a matter of time, it cannot be a matter of time. When you are taxing more and more is being stolen and your expenditure is out of hand, no controls on the expenditure. So he had better look at the expenditure side of it, eliminate wastage, and then get more taxes, but focus on development. Right now, we are doing recurrent, and debts payment, not serious infrastructural development issues.
Indeed. IMF just giving us or loaning us $941 million. And of course, it comes with some ramifications or some obligations with it at the end of the day. But now seeing such headlines is what also is a niggling worry for the country, where we're making losses as it is, that we can see also our neighbors are taking special umbrage with some of the decisions that we do take that is affecting them without also their consultation. And this is where the president also will be trying to mend fences with Uganda regarding the oil deal that also they pulled away from actually getting their oil here from the country. So we want just to interrogate on the other side of a break as well this particular development and that particular issue that was in the public domain also this week, that the state captures. We have the majority leader coming up with a commission a commission bill that they will set up a commission to interrogate the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and also the former interior minister. This is, of course, Fred Matiang'i, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. So what does it really portend?